guys, I'm Haley. I'm really excited to be here with you today. My story is long and windy, and so I'm going to give you the ESPN highlights. I got really motivated for the first time in my life without ever caring about anything before when I was 17. Started working really hard, transferred to Brown my junior year of college, and started an international nonprofit called Lit Without Limits, short for Literature Without Limits, where I was donating books to girls around the world and mentoring groups. I wrote 2 books so far. So the first was called She Is Without Limits, and it was to be donated through the nonprofit. And then I wrote a book called Her Big Idea, which is about what happens when an idea goes wrong and what the adventure of an idea can be, because the first company that I started also failed because of a major co-founder struggle, which you can read all about in the book or on Entrepreneur magazine, since my very public failure is now out there for the world to read about. But that's okay, because we're going to talk about stories and how they actually help people. Now I live in New York City. I moved here on February 1st, right before the coronavirus happened. But I'm back in action, and I love being here more than anything. And I'm a motivational speaker. I run a copywriting agency, and as Michael said, I'm obsessed with TikTok. So I TikTok a lot. So make sure to follow me on there before they ban it. Yeah, so we can get into the presentation if you want, Michael, or do you want to say anything else?
Yeah, no, that's fantastic. I just dropped a bunch of links for the app, our upcoming events. I'm also going to drop links to Haley's Instagram and everything, and also her book in here as well, so that you guys can follow her and everything before we get started and get into all the nitty-gritty of the workshop. As she's going through the presentation and the slides and everything, if you guys have questions, please feel free to go ahead and message me directly in the chat. I mean, you can throw it out there in the main chat, but I prefer private so we don't confuse the chat with questions. And I'll be keeping track of all of those during the workshop. If anything's relevant, I'll share it, at that point in time. But most of the questions we're going to hold to the end. And then at the end, we also are going to be doing, maybe 1 or 2 breakout sessions for attendees who want to network and meet some other people, because that's another huge part about what we're doing. And we want to, at least let us, everyone's in this virtual setting right now, and maybe you haven't even met other people in the last couple of months. So, we really value that, and we want to allow you to actually meet the other people who are here and the other entrepreneurs and like-minded people. But that's about it. Let's jump right into it. Haley, I know you can share your screen now. I'm going to mute myself, but I'll be here. And then if anything comes up, I'll tune back in. But the floor is yours.
Sounds good. Okay. Oops. Haven't done this in a while. How do you press present? Oh, here it is. Sorry, it was right next. It was under the. Okay. Moving forward. All right, guys. So today's talk is called Unleashing Your Personal Brand. And I wanted to bring attention to this title and that keyword unleashing, because I think a lot of people think, oh, we're going to create a personal brand. I'm going to think of something that I'm going to manufacture that's going to represent me. But I truly believe you have everything you need for your personal brand within you. It's just a matter of identifying those key traits, which will define, and bringing them to action to connect with people. Oh, okay. So we learned about me when Michael gave a great introduction, but here are just the basics. And this is what you would read about me if you went to my LinkedIn. Same that I would read about you if I went to your LinkedIn, or if I read your resume or Googled you, right? So we have all of these things that make us us from a bio perspective. But then there are the other things, such as who I really am. So this is how my friends would describe me. I have a dog named Fitz Carlton, named after the Ritz-Carlton, who's a golden doodle and my BFF. I'm a wannabe Carrie Bradshaw because I loved the Sex and the City series. I'm obsessed with New York, and I'm a writer. I'm a huge believer in our ability to manifest our dream lives, and that's a lot of what I talk about on TikTok, so tune in there for that. And as we'll get into, I also love loaded baked potatoes as my favorite food. And I'm on a mission to empower more people to pursue their big life dreams. So what is a personal brand? Such a buzzword, right? Well, what I just described is basically what a personal brand is. It's how your friends would describe you. It's how the people who know you best would describe you. It's not necessarily the long list of things that you've done or accomplished or the schools that you've gone to or what your job is or what your company is. And I came up with my own little formula for personal brand, which is just your personality plus your purpose. It is really that simple. It doesn't have to be this big obscure concept. And so in this workshop, we're going to break down what each of those are, how you can identify the key tenets of both your personality and your purpose, and then stitch them together into a story that will make you sticky followers. Did someone say something?
We had an unmuted person, but we're
good. Okay. So first, personality. So personality can be kind of hard to define fully, but it's things like, on a Saturday night, would you rather be in with a good book or would you rather be out partying? Are you a cat person or a dog person, coffee or tea person? All these things that your friends would know if they were to describe you. And we'll get into some of the questions that can help you define what your personality is, but just to set the scene for that one. Then there's your purpose, and your purpose can seem very big and daunting because it's basically how you serve the world. And we'll also get into what this is, but just think about it as like your mission statement or your North Star. So personality and personal brand, personality has to be a part of personal brand with purpose, because let's think about people like the Kardashians or people that we follow through The Bachelor or The Bachelorette who are just personality. So I'm not saying anything against these people, but they don't really have this overarching purpose. We follow them because of their personality. We want to see what they're doing with their kids, what they're doing with their lives. And that's why we follow them. And that's enough of a reason to follow somebody. However, on the reverse of that, let's try to think of people who just have a purpose or just something they stand for. And I'm very hard pressed to think about who these people are, right? The most I've come up with is like a politician might have just their purpose and we don't see their personality a lot, but then we're even seeing, one of the reasons that AOC is doing so well with voters is because she can go on Instagram Live and set up an IKEA furniture while talking to people and really share that personality. But we don't often see people who just have that purpose aspect or think of them often. And that's because your personality is what makes your purpose relatable and impactful. You have to have the personality piece. Otherwise, that entire list of all the things that you've done and accomplished, etc., don't matter as much. So let's talk about people who have really good personal brands and how they both have personality and purpose. So Sarah Blakely is a really good example of this. If you follow her on Instagram, you know that every Sunday morning, she makes pancakes with her kids and puts them into really cute shapes. She also has a husband named Jesse Itzler, who is really into health stuff. And so there's this big joke about how he is always having all these bananas with him, but her favorite food is Cheez-Its. And that's such a big part of her personality that she says that people even bring her Cheez-Its when they know they're going to meet her. We think about Mindy Kaling, who is hilarious. And so she's always sharing her funny personality on Instagram, but her purpose is really into more diversity and representation in the media and the TV industry. Oprah, our girl. Oprah is so great at making people feel through her personality, like even though you've never met her, you're just meeting her through a screen, that she's right there with you and she's a friend. And then her purpose is really helping people tap into their purpose and share their stories. So how do you make your personality strong enough? Let's break down this first one, because I know it can seem kind of like, well, there's all these aspects of my personality. I don't know how I'm supposed to share them on social media, etc. And that's where I'm going to take you to a story that I call the baked potato principle, which is a totally non-technical term used to describe the accidental accomplishment of resonating with an audience authentically. Keyword accidental. So to tell the story, let's go back in time. There was a night that I was living in Denver at the time, and I was home alone and I was working, and so I wasn't going to go out for dinner, and I had this insane craving for a loaded baked potato. I think it's just a big comfort food to me. My dad would always make loaded baked potatoes growing up on like Christmas Eve and special occasions, and I really wanted one, but I couldn't find one anywhere other than like a 5-star steakhouse or Wendy's. So that's like a big gap between the two. So I ordered one from Ruth's Chris Steakhouse, and I was just cracking up on my Instagram story about how they were going to receive this order for just one loaded baked potato at the steakhouse for delivery, especially it was like a $20 baked potato. So just cracking up about it casually, because I'm always very out there on social media. But what I did not expect is that in the years since I posted this, the baked potato principle came to life by literally everybody who has ever interacted with me sharing every single time they have ever seen a baked potato anywhere. guys, it got so real that when I was coming to speak at a school, instead of them posting like, oh, this is Haley, and like a picture of me or even a picture of Fitz, like she's coming to speak, they posted a picture of a baked potato to announce that I was coming to speak. Again, completely accidental. It's not like one night I was like, oh, you know what would be really good for my personality? I'm going to start talking about baked potatoes. Like, I promise I would not have come up with that if this was going to be manufactured. But the more that you share, the more that you'll see what might accidentally be sticky with certain people so that they think about you. And that's kind of the same thing as what I was saying about like Sarah Blakely and the Cheez-Its. And I know these are all like food examples, but that's why people think of her when they see Cheez-Its, and that's why they bring Cheez-Its. And that's what makes you feel like you're connected with this person and that you're friends with them, even if you've never met them. So why does that matter? So if you can influence somebody to think about you when they think about baked potatoes or see one, then you have trust. If you can make them think about you for anything, like if they're thinking about, oh, I really need to tap into an entrepreneurship network, I'm going to think of Entre, I'm going to think of Michael. That's influence, and influence leads to trust always, because if you have taken up some mental real estate in their minds and they think of you as an influencer, there's going to be trust, and trust moves to action. And this becomes like this big recycling circle, because the more that you are prompting people to take action, the more influence you have, the more trust you have, and so forth. So to understand this further and to break it down for you, and you might already have kind of your idea of maybe what your personality could be, we're going to start this workshop by going down this list of just questions and prompts that can help you start to think about your personality. And this is actually a page out of my personal branding workbook, which is 28 pages long. And I'm going to send it to all of you guys if you email me after this, or I'll send it to Michael to send to you or something. But it's all about really getting to know yourself and the things about you that your friends would talk about. So let's just take 5 minutes and we're going to go through this list just on your own, jot down some notes. And I want you to think of like the first thing that comes to your mind. That's what you're going to write down. I don't want you to think too much about this or try to manufacture it or think of like the perfect food, because again, like loaded baked potatoes, guys, you never know what's going to resonate with people. Just the most authentic answer for you.
I'm loving this so far. And I have a lot of people asking if it's going to be recorded and where can we get things. So yes, it is recording. It is going to be up on our YouTube. We will be sending the video out, and we're going to be giving it to Haley too. And I'm sure she'll be, she can be posting clips, on her social and stuff as well if she wants. And then, yeah, I'm more than happy to share whatever it is that you want. If you want to if you want to email people, or you want us to email that, either way, it's cool.
Okay, cool.
I know what to also get you next time I'm in New York.
Baked potato.
Next time we go out to lunch or something. Yeah.
Works every time. Maybe I can't see the chat, but maybe when you guys are done, you can just like type in done so we know, so we're not sitting here an awkward amount of time.
Yeah, great idea. Just throw it done in the chat if you guys have gone through these questions. Okay, Amanda is done. Let's get a few more real quick. Done. Okay, sweet. I think we can. Oh, well, they're flooding in now. Okay, I think
everyone's done.
Fantastic. Thanks, guys.
Okay, cool. And again, this will be in the personal branding workbook. So if you haven't finished and you're like, wait, I didn't think about it enough, you'll get it. Okay, so let's move on to purpose now. And just like a quick disclaimer before we go into these questions, I talk with a lot of people who suddenly get worried about their purpose because we think a purpose needs to be as big as like saving the whales or solving world hunger, which, yeah, I mean, your purpose should ideally help people, but I also want you to know that it's my firm belief that when you are standing in your full power and doing what you were born to do, you're going to help people because you're going to inspire them. Your actions aren't going to go unnoticed. And a story that I like to say in this vein is about Jim Carrey. And he said that like he always felt so drawn to acting. And usually we think of acting as like, oh, you just like acting because like you are passionate about it as a person and you enjoy doing it. But he said his main motive for it was that he wanted to suspend people's unhappiness and make them happy. And that's why he cared so much about being a comedic actor. So through whatever your talent or skill set or purpose is, you're going to inspire people. So I want you to take that into consideration as you're answering these questions, and don't feel forced to come up with a new charity because you're good enough as you are. So that first question is, what would your dream life look like? This is just tapping into like, why do you think you were put on this earth? If you could wake up tomorrow and you were living in the city of your dreams and you had a full day of work ahead of you, what would that look like? We can do the done thing again too.
Yeah, just throw a done in the chat when you answer these three. I think these are so important, though, honestly. Oh, we got some again. We're good. Yeah, so it's something that I've learned to do at least, every month or even couple weeks, is really just sit down and go through, and visualize too, like what I really want. And it's that I don't think visualization is talked enough about. So I'm loving that you're bringing this up. And I think it's really important for entrepreneurship to, not only just like do the work and work hard and all of that, but also be in a positive mindset and positive thoughts and thinking about what you want instead of what you don't want. Because I think a lot of times you can get in that mindset. You can get in a very negative mindset very quickly, because there's a lot of ups and downs with entrepreneurship and a lot of things that happen. So coming back to these questions is extremely important. So I love this.
Yay.
It looks like everyone's done, or we're getting some dones in the chat here. So I think
we can move on to this second question too. So if you could put anything on a billboard that millions of people were going to drive past and see, what would you say? Or what would it be? But kind of like, what would you say? And I think this question is helpful for orienting, like, what do you want other people to know? What's like so pressing that, or what inspires you so much that you'd want other people to know it too? And this is also kind of like separate from yourself, right? Because if it's going to be up on a billboard, nobody is going to know that you're the one who said it, unless you want to give yourself credit on the billboard or put up your Instagram handle. But if they're not going to know that you said it, like, what is it that you think is really important for other people to know? Or would it be something funny? Or would it be a picture of your dog? Free reign here creatively.
All right. Drop some dones in the chat, guys, if you're done with the billboard. We got Dania saying, great thought-provoking exercise. Nice exercise. There's people really really liking this. I like this. Okay. Done. Okay, great.
And then third question here is, how do you want to be remembered? So when you get the workbook, you'll see there's actually a prompt where you're going to write the eulogy that your best friend or whoever you think is going to give your eulogy will give. But for purposes of this workshop, maybe just write down a sentence. Like if someone was going to say like a highlight reel of who you were when you're being remembered one day, what would you want them to say?
feel like this is a tough one.
Yeah, it is hard.
Have you, do you find yourself going back to these questions every few months, or what do you, or a few years, or what do you think about revisiting these questions? Because like I said, I don't necessarily do these specific questions, but I come back to kind of like the dream question or things that I want. How often do you recommend people, and you might be talking about this later on too, I don't know, but do you recommend people come back to these questions?
Yeah, I think that's always a good idea. It's also one of my firm beliefs that life is an unfolding process. So even when I was editing these slides from the last time I gave this talk, back then it said that my own mission was to empower women to bring their big ideas to life. So it was about entrepreneurship. And since then I've kind of shifted into like, actually, I kind of want to just help people bring their big dreams to life. Like we can leave business out of it if we want to, because you do evolve so much. And a lot of that is mirrored in your own life experience. So after my book came out, and after I was speaking about entrepreneurship and all of these things, I had this kind of like kumbaya moment with myself where I was like, well, what is it that I want to do? Like, am I going to start another company, or am I just going to help people with theirs? And I realized I really wanted to go after my own big dream of being a television host. And that's why I moved to New York. And I signed with an agency out here, and I've been trying to be really active about getting in front of the camera. But basically it was like returning to the roots of what I wanted to be when I was young. Cause I think we all know our big dream, but a lot of times it's like hidden under layers of invalidation by thinking that wasn't realistic, or somebody told us we weren't good at it, or for whatever reason, we just thought like, it's probably best if I go after something safer. So that being said, like I had to go through everything I went through before and everything I thought I would be before in order to get to this place now. So that's the thing, is you're writing down these answers, like what you wrote down for how do you want to be remembered, that's not like set in stone to be your eulogy, right? Like you can rewrite the script at any time. I just think these are good reflective questions to think like, am I acting in alignment with what I want to be right now? Because if you follow those gut desires and those gut feelings, you'll get to where you need to go. Like your desires are always your best compass.
Yeah, I love that. No, I think you're spot on with it for sure. And it looks like most of the people are done. So I think.
Okay, cool. Let's move on then. Okay, so now we're going to come up with your story, which again, you know your story. But a story should reflect alignment with your purpose, and you're going to tell it in a way that lets your personality shine. So to be clear on what I mean by story, we connect with humans so much more when they have a story to tell. And sometimes it's like, well, does that mean I need to make this whole like biography on an Instagram post? Like, no, none of that. But whenever you're posting something, the more that you can relate it to your story and kind of like your hero's journey, the more people are going to feel emotionally attached to you. Again, told in a way that lets your personality shine. So this can't be like a story that's like ghost written, or you got to tell it in your own way. Like if you're funny, say something funny. Or if you're like always quoting people like Henry Ford, like I just did in this slide, like do that, share it in a way that shares your personality. So what does any good story have? There's a compelling beginning that draws people in from the get-go. Then the story has peaks and valleys. We don't know if you're going to make it, but then you did make it. And I'm just going to say the valleys are the part of the story that people cling to the most. Sure, they love to hear about your successes, and that's so great when you achieve successes, but people want to hear about the times that you were down in the dumps and you wanted to quit and you kept going. And then there's a hopeful ending. So obviously we know like our stories are still being written, but people also feel more emotionally connected to us when they are able to root for us. Like they know what has happened to us to date. They know what we're working for now. And so they're on board with the ending that we're trying to bring to fruition. So I want to share an example of this. So Jenna Kutcher, who I'm sure a lot of you guys know, she was a really good example for this when I first put together this talk, because she had recently gone viral for this photo. And it was a photo with her husband, and she was talking about how she always struggled with her weight and what people thought of her for that. And so a lot of people apparently were saying things to her like, oh, your husband's so fit, and like, you're not. But it was this whole thing promoting self-love, which she's really good at talking about. And essentially she was saying like, he loves me for me, and I'm learning to love me for me. And that photo got millions of likes, so much engagement. She got a lot of brand deals for it. And it's really what jumpstarted her career, because she was telling her story, and she was connecting with people in a genuine, authentic way. Like she was talking about a struggle of her life. But then like the hopeful ending of the story, so to speak, was like, I'm here to promote self-love. I love myself and you can too. And she's even an airy real model too for that. So let's start with your beginning. Your beginning can start wherever you want it to start. I have this question in here about who were you as a child, because of the point that I just made about like a lot of it in life, I believe, is going back to what we wanted to be as a child before we thought too much about like overcomplicated things with what needs to be logical or what's feasible for me. So we'll start with these first two questions together, which is really like, where did you come from and who were you as a child / what did you want to be as a child?
Wow, this is deep. I wasn't expecting it. I wasn't expecting this to get this thought provoking. I love it.
Yeah, you should have brought like a cup of tea.
No, I love it. Yeah, I just have this seltzer here. But no, I think it's great. And I also love, you briefly mentioned it, the hero's journey. And I'm assuming you're familiar with Joseph Campbell, with his whole philosophy and everything. It was, so I don't know if you've seen the documentary about him and all of that, called Finding Joe, but literally that documentary changed like the whole trajectory of my life, because I watched it right at the end of college, like right before I was graduating to be a civil engineer. And one of the big takeaways from the documentary and his whole philosophy is like following your bliss. And you really do know it like inside of you, whether you actually are following your bliss or not. And when that like kind of hit me, I was like, wow, like I don't think I'm following my bliss, like becoming a civil engineer and doing this whole thing. And so that like thought got implanted, and still graduated, you know, got my job, but I only lasted 6 months, you know, and I was like, I gotta do my own thing. So I think I can't recommend it enough. I mean, he has a lot of like really cool stuff. He's like an OG, like kind of philosopher in this space, but you brought up the hero's journey. So I didn't know if you followed him or not.
No, I haven't watched that documentary, but I'm definitely going to. That sounds great.
Yeah, it's really good. He's written a lot of stuff too, and he studied a lot of the mythologies and everything, and like all the stories and stuff from different religions, all sorts of stuff, and realized they're all telling like the same story, and it was the hero's journey, and you know, all this stuff, and it's pretty wild. Dan's asking for it's called Finding Joe. I actually recently rewatched it, and they have it up, like you can, it's on YouTube now, the whole thing. So let me see if I can find a link and I'll drop it in here. But also, just drop a done if you guys are in or finished up with the last thing here. And then, yeah, here's the link. So I'll drop the link in here. But I didn't want to deter us too much.
No, yeah, that's great. So very quickly, we'll just go over that last part of your beginning, which is how can you relate to others who are currently where you were before? So for me, for example, I like very briefly told my story at the beginning of all of this, how I wasn't motivated at all up until age 17, and then I got super motivated. And it seems that the people who I'm helping the most are people who are in places in their life where they don't have any motivation or sense of purpose. And so I can help them by going back to the roots of, well, what was going on, I guess, like mentally and emotionally at that time of my life where I didn't know my purpose and I didn't feel excited about my life. And how can I use that, knowing what it's like to be there, and given the fact that I've like hoisted myself up from that and have developed this life since then, to help them. So maybe as you're reviewing this, just think through. And also I want to say, like, if nothing comes to mind for this right now because you are still very much in your journey and you're not like, oh, look, I'm on the other side of something. That's totally fine. It's just another consideration of how you could interpret your beginning for your story. Okay, we'll move on for the sake of time. Executive decision. Okay, so let's talk about your middle now, which are your peaks and valleys. So identify the peaks and identify the valleys. What have been your biggest accomplishments? What have been your biggest failures? And then also as you're moving from the valley to the peak, like how did you overcome those failures and those obstacles? So a fun way to actually do this is to draw peaks of like who you were back then, put that at the beginning of like the road, and then where you are now, and then maybe identify 1 to 3 big mountains of, okay, you were here at this, in this valley, and you got to a peak somehow. Okay, you were at a job that you hated, so you quit your job and you started your company. You were at a college you didn't like, so you transferred. You were in a bad relationship, so you got out of it. Whatever it is, just how did you get from your valley to your peak?
I think this is also important to recognize like your wins and your small wins as an entrepreneur, because there's a lot of ups and downs, and there's just a lot of stuff that happens as you're growing a company or as you're starting to do your own thing.
Yeah.
And just embracing and being grateful for the small things that you accomplish and that you do. It's really important. It's hard to do as well because you have always bigger goals in front of you that you want to achieve now. And one thing I learned is, patience is huge as an entrepreneur. And just doing small things every single day, no matter what happens at the end of the day, just doing, one small thing at the absolute minimum to, just get you where you want to go in any of your goals and stuff. And I think just piecing those things together, it compounds over time. So I think that it's huge for founders. So it looks like some people are dropping in done as well.
Okay, cool.
We want to move on to the next question. I just wanted to.
No, I think that's a great point. And by the way, those can be mini stories. You could easily do a post about one day you were feeling super unmotivated and you didn't know if like you should pursue your business any longer. But then the next day you woke up and somebody sent you a testimonial about how much your product helped them. And then you like those stories too, just sharing this like dilly-dally between the peaks and the valleys that we all go through. That's enough to make people feel emotionally connected to you. Okay, so now you're happily ever after, which is going to be very forward facing, but people also want to know what you are working towards. So what is it that you care about? And I also get this whole need to kind of like covet those things and to not tell anybody what your goals are because you don't want other people's energy in the way or you don't want evil eye. But I'll also say people want to root for you and they want to know that you're being like vulnerable and authentic in your pursuit of something. So case in point, now everybody and their mother knows that I want to be a TV show host. So when I got my first TV segment last week and I was on CBS Austin, you betcha that there were thousands of people celebrating with me. And that was way more empowering for me. And it was for them to be like, oh my gosh, Haley like made one small step towards it, and she's very open about what she's working towards. It just makes people feel like this is not just somebody I follow, this is somebody who I can root for. And if people root against you, there's always going to be somebody who's rooting against you. It's just about like putting on the blinders and not focusing on them. It's about the people who do get you and are inspired by the fact that you're going after it. So with that being said, where do you want to be in 5 years? And another way to approach this question could be, what would your mission look like fulfilled? So whatever it is that you're going after, what you feel like your purpose is, or when you're waking up to your dream life, like what does that look like? What is it that you're working towards?
Love this. And I think living in that moment of the wish fulfilled or the dream fulfilled is big too. And actually like picturing yourself on TV, you know, hosting a show or whatever, right? I'm sure you visualize what it would feel like when you launched your book or when you had a successful book, and, you know, other things too. So that's something that that's something that I really try to do as well. You know, as things have happened, feeling what it would be like when it's done, I think is extremely powerful.
Yeah.
And if you listen and look at some of the most successful people, they do that a lot. And it's one of kind of the secrets to success, if you will.
I do it every single morning. And I also think, like, as Michael and I are talking about this, if that interests you, to look up Joe Dispenza and his book, Breaking the Habit of Being Yourself, because that's all about getting into the emotional vibration as you visualize it. So every single morning before I check my phone, I write down 3 things I'm grateful for. I write down 3 goals as if they've already come to fruition. And then I sit down just for 5 minutes. I close my eyes and I visualize those key things that I want. So I'm walking onto set for my TV show. I'm traveling to a place that I love. And I really try to conjure in my body how it would feel, like that excitement. And some days it's easier to tap into than others, but I know how much it works for people. And especially as you read about Joe Dispenza and how it's helped the people that have, like, follow him and read his books, I really think you'll feel compelled and empowered to take that small 5 minutes every single morning just to really orient yourself and, like, okay, this is what I'm working towards, and I'm the creator of my own experience. And so if I visualize this, I can bring it to fruition.
We have some people saying that they ordered a journal for manifesting recently. Joe Dispenza is awesome. He's one of, like, the I don't even know what you would call them, thought leaders, I guess, in this space. Yeah. I mean, Tony Robbins talks a lot about gratitude all the time. That's a huge part of his morning routine and stuff too. And he's literally, you know, pretty much the top, like, whatever coach or whatever you want to call it for, like, a lot of the biggest influential and successful people out there. So it just gets you in the right mindset. I was chatting privately too with Bonnie about David Meltzer. I don't know if you know him, Haley, but I'll have to introduce you to him too, because Bonnie and I met at Evan Carmichael's event here in Pittsburgh. He's like a big YouTuber and stuff, but I guess Bonnie knows David as well. He's phenomenal, and he talks a lot about gratitude and saying thank you before in the morning and before you go to bed for 30 straight days. And it's one of the most powerful things that he helps, like he teaches to some of his clients and stuff like that. But David's an awesome guy. I mean, he's built up a huge following. He's built successful companies and stuff. He's mostly in the sports space, but now he's also all over social media, and he has hundreds of thousands of followers and stuff. So I'll have to introduce you to him, because he would be awesome for you to get connected with too.
Thank you. I'll have to look him up.
And it looks like if you guys want to drop some dones in if you're finished, and then we can move on here too. Okay, it looks like we're getting some dones. Also, yeah, I'm gonna drop my LinkedIn here if you guys are if people are just coming on late or whatever. If you guys want to connect on there, also definitely, like, I'm always on the Entre app now too, so feel free to, you guys join there and message me on there. That's like my primary communication tool now. But I'll let Haley get back into it.
Cool. So this is a concluding thought, but those who are truly 100% themselves are the ones who are the most remembered. So I always think about people like Lady Gaga always comes to mind, right? Just like somebody who is so authentically themselves, and they're not afraid to show who they are and to be like, this is me, take me or leave me. And the thing about that is, like, some people are going to be your biggest fan and some people aren't going to get you, but that's okay, because you're going to find your people and you're going to impact them if you're showing up authentically. So personal brand is not about like sitting down the same way you would with a business brand to calculate like, oh, what are our brand colors going to be? And what are the words that describe our brand? It's genuinely and authentically who you were born to be, but you're just being thoughtful about the way that you're sharing it, because you know that you have the most impact when you're sharing things with your personality so people can get to know you, and also rooting everything on your purpose, because you know what it is that you stand for and the ways in which you're going to help people just by living your best life. Your time is limited, so don't waste it living someone else's life, is Steve Jobs from his Stanford commencement speech. So yay, that's that. And follow me on Instagram and TikTok at Haley Hoffman Smith. And then here's my email. So if you want the 28-page personal branding workbook, just let me know and I'll send it over.
Amazing. Definitely one of my favorite follows on social. For sure. And, we'll open it up to some Q&A right now, guys. If you have questions, I know we've been throwing some stuff out here throughout the event, but drop some questions in. I'm also going to run a quick poll here too to see what you guys are looking for and if there's stuff that we can help with. So if you drop, the poll should be down at the bottom. If you guys want to start voting for that, we'll open that up, and then we'll give people a few minutes here to submit some questions. Obviously, let Haley know how great of a job she did too in the chat and on social. I would like some help to get a loan for my pop-up museum. Yeah, that's something that we would have to just, Andrew, email me about that if you need help getting funding or something. We can see what the best option for you for that would be. Okay, we have a question from Holly. Do you have an anthem, 2 words to help people interpret who you are? That's interesting.
Tell me more what that means. I'm sorry, I haven't heard of that. 2 words.
I guess I know you kicked it off with like you're a motivational speaker, author. Is there? It seems like they're asking for something like that, but maybe deeper. I'm not sure. Holly, if you want to reply, what exactly you mean by that, or it looks like you unmuted yourself. So if you want to talk, you can do that too.
Hi.
Hi. Thank you so much for sharing your time with us today and your expertise. It was very informative. So I just recently sat with a business coach who said I should have an anthem. And so she described an anthem as an adjective and a noun that describes who you are and how people can perceive you at your most authentic. And so I have been struggling to figure out what my anthem is as a brand and beauty expert. And I was just curious to know if that's something that you have in place and if I need to really place a lot of, I guess, stock into her request and spending a lot of time and thought on defining what mine is.
I would actually say I don't love that idea just because it's so hard to put ourselves into 2 words. And even like, so I'm a motivational speaker and I'm an author and I want to be a TV show host and all these things. Like, I could not put those into 2 words. And like, I think rather just knowing the core tenets of your personality and then having your mission statement or your purpose or what you'd put on a billboard, that's how you should define yourself. And it's not, people are okay with reading a full sentence about who you are. Like, people don't need 2 words to like understand what you stand for, right? So I would also be struggling with that. I literally can't even think of anything for myself. I'll let you know if something comes to me later, but I think she's on to something a little bit to get very like pithy about it and to have like those core identity features, but it's going to be more multifaceted than that.
Great. Thank you so much. I will be sure to continue following you. You're very inspiring.
Thank you. It's nice to meet you.
Thank you.
Hey, Mike, can I ask a question through audio, or I have to type it in?
You're good. You're good, Nathan. Go ahead.
Okay. Haley, well, thank you, by the way, Haley, first of all.
Sure.
For joining us this evening. I appreciate it. My question is, so I have a background in journalism, and I started a website, smallbizphilly.com, and I was talking to one of my, business consultants, and she's telling me that I should not have advertising be my business model. My business model should be providing a service to small business owners as a digital marketer. And I thought that it would make more sense to try to make money with advertising, because then I can get some passive income as opposed to active income. So I kind of wanted your thoughts on that, like, as far as having a website featuring small business owners, how I should go about creating a business model.
Okay, so a lot to unpack there, though. I'm sensing a trend in these questions, and it's one person told you one thing and now you're rethinking everything. And part of knowing who you are and what your business is means that sometimes people are going to tell you to do something and you're going to be like, no, that doesn't sound right to me. So if you want to do advertising, do advertising.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think the thing, the best thing as well is, I mean, don't keep doing it if it's really not working repetitively for a long time, right? There's a certain threshold where there's a question too, like, how do you know when to stop doing something, right? Because entrepreneurship's a lot about perseverance and being consistent and persistent, and having patience. But you also don't want to beat your head against the wall, right? You want to be able to pivot if if it's obvious that something's not working. So, but I think Haley is spot on, and there's a lot of noise out there. There's a lot of people that put out content or make suggestions, and there's a lot of consultants and advisors and stuff. I would focus on, I pay very close attention to who I listen to, and I make sure I don't, like, I listen to everyone, but I'm very careful about who I really implement their advice. So I'm very careful about who I listen to, and I really only listen to people who are where I want to be, or like they have proven success, right? Without a shadow of a doubt. So I would definitely take that into account too as you're listening to people. But I think Haley's spot on with you inside of you what's the best way of going about it. But test it out and try it. You can do it for put a lot of work into it, and don't just like keep pivoting just because people are telling you one thing or another.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Could I ask a quick question?
Sure. Hi, Mara.
Hi, how are you? So what I was going to inquire about is how you see the correlation between having a purpose and values, like kind of honing in on what your values are. Like, are your values for, let's say it's important for you to show up in the world and for social justice, or maybe you're like myself, you're very much invested in the health of people and really feel like that's something that you're really committed to, and it's really sort of is the directional pull of all of your aspirations. And it feels like the best way of expressing yourself authentically. I don't know how that sort of, kind of ties into what we've been talking about.
Yeah, I think that's a really good question. So for me, the way that I view values are things like, one of my top values is that I value my friendships as that's my top value. I will always do anything for my friends. That means that I will never choose a client over a friend. I will always show up for my friends. So my value is like how I go about living my life. And so if you think about it in one way, like maybe you think your purpose is helping more people get PR and exposure, but one of your values is community over competition. So you'll never say anything bad about another PR company. Those are the ways that I think what you're doing in the world through your purpose and your values can intersect. But both are really good to assess, especially side by side, because it's just about getting to know yourself more and using both of those as a compass all the time. Your purpose is a compass for what you're going to do day to day and the businesses that you're going to create and how you're going to impact the world. But your values is like how you show up as a whole person all the time. So in your interpersonal relationships too.
Mm-hmm. Okay, no, that makes sense. Thank you.
Yeah.
Very nice presentation. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm glad you liked it.
Can I jump in with the question? Is that okay?
Sure.
Cool. Hi, Haley.
Hi.
We saw you in Michigan when you spoke at Ross. So
Oh my gosh, that's so funny.
So one, I love the presentation. Thank you for sharing. My question for you is, I'm also a writer, and I think my biggest fear is just being visible to people and kind of being open to criticism, and just like the things that I want to share are really near and dear to my heart. And so as they should be, I think, if you want to share them. But I just am wondering what your take is on kind of how you've dealt with expanding yourself and kind of being comfortable with being very accessible to people. I'm even thinking of like, my Instagram is private and I want to make it public, but even that is like scaring me. So I guess just any thoughts or tips you have around the idea of just kind of expanding your network and how to kind of deal with all that comes with that.
Yeah, okay. It's a really important question. And I'm not going to lie and say that it's been easy for me either, especially like with growing a really big TikTok following, for example. There's a ton of strangers on there who are operating under anonymous names and they leave really rude comments. And sometimes it really hurts and sometimes I cry about it. But you have to kind of like move through it and be like, you know what? This is like another person's projection onto me. This is about their limited beliefs. This is not at all about me. And you start to build up, I guess like the way I described it when I was talking about it with a friend is like, we're all turtles and you can have like your turtle shell, but like the part that people are going to connect with is like the green part of the turtle, you know, like the part of you that's soft and like your little cute turtle face. So you got to like know when to kind of move your turtle shell to dodge the mean comments, etc. But a lot of it is like, you've got to grow your turtle shell first. So now, authentically, when I get mean comments, it has taken me forever. I used to literally check my TikTok first thing in the morning, cringing, like literally my jaw was like clenched because I'm like, someone's going to say something mean. Someone's going to say something mean. It's going to upset me. It's going to put my day off on a bad foot. How many people are seeing the comments? Like really be in my head about it. But now when I see them, I laugh. But I had to get to that point by going through enough times where I'm like, am I really going to let some stranger on the internet who doesn't know me and doesn't know my story hurt me? And then the second thing that I wanted to say about that is, the times that I've put out content that have helped the most people are the times I put out content that I was really scared to put out because it was really authentic and genuine and vulnerable. It was like, I talked a bit about, and you heard in my presentation at Michigan, how everything went south with my co-founder and I had like this big company go kaput, literally. And Entrepreneur Magazine literally reported on that. And I was terrified when that article came out. I'm like, what are people going to think of me? Is like, she going to come after me? But so many more, nothing bad actually ever happened from that article. Not going. But the number of people who came to me and said, like, this is why I started to have a conversation with my co-founder about this, or this really helped my mom, and some entrepreneurship programs put it in their curriculum. Like, when you're able to share things vulnerably, even when you're really scared to show up, like when you're scared, that usually means you're saying something really important. And there's so many people out there nowadays that are just saying things because they think it's gonna make them look good, or they think it's gonna sound good. But what people are craving, and part of the reason that everything feels so divided, is because it's so hard and scary to show it vulnerably with, you know, you never know what you're gonna be subjected to, but you gotta do it anyways, because people are counting on you and you're gonna help so many more people than you're going to incite haters, you know? Like there's gonna be a few mean comments here and there as you gain exposure, maybe, but mostly you're gonna really inspire people and change lives. So when you feel the fear, be like, I'm gonna feel the fear and I'm gonna do it anyways because I'm doing something important and I'm showing up authentically, and that's the best thing I can do. That's why I was put on this earth. We have to all be authentic.
Thank you. That really resonates. Appreciate it.
Yes.
I have another question. Is that okay?
Hang on, Nathan. Let's see if anyone else. I think Kayla, do you want to?
Oh, Keela.
Keela.
Yeah.
Hi. Sorry,
Hey.
I thought you were.
No, it's okay. Everybody mispronounced my
Sorry.
name. Yeah, so I have a quick question. When it comes to building your brand, should you just do it as your...
Oh my, what happened? Oh no.
I think we're good.
I can't.
Oh,
I think your microphone is off.
Oh.
Oh, it is. Oh, sorry about that.
No, you're
Yeah. Yeah, when it comes to building your brand, should you just put out authentic content and wait for it to grow naturally? Or should you do like advertisements, or what would you say?
So the thing that's helped me the most is just putting out content consistently, but also like going back to the authenticity note. I will not tell you what most marketers will tell you, which is like, you got to look up the right times to post certain things. Like I post on TikTok or Instagram when I feel compelled to post and suddenly feel like, I feel like I need to say something right now. And I'll sit down and I'll spend my time with it and I'll write it out and I'll say something. And the thing is, like, the first month to year that you post things, like, it's not like things are going to go viral right off the bat. But the more that you show up consistently, then when you post something that does resonate with somebody, or they find it through a hashtag and they really like your energy, then when they're going through your Instagram or wherever you've been putting out content and they're seeing all this content that's like it and you have been showing up consistently, then they get the full picture of who you are. Did I lose
Right.
you? Okay. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
No, you're fine.
Thank you so much. I'm glad you said that. Thank you. Because I was
Yeah.
worried about that. Like, should I be paying for advertisement or to just be consistent and authentic?
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, of
Thank
course.
you. Thank you. Love your presentation. Yeah.
Thank you. I'm so glad.
Thank you. Mhm.
Amazing. Yeah, I want to, I think what the previous question about fear is really important for people to understand, because I think fear and doubt hold people back so much to become entrepreneurs and really the person that they want to be, and to, really get what you want out of life and business. You really do have to, step right to fear and doubt, and you gotta put all that aside. It's crazy because even myself, even though like I've trained myself and practice like getting rid of fear and doubt and all that stuff, it still creeps in, and I know it happens to everybody. And it's one of those things that one of the reasons we're building Entre and doing these events and bringing in successful speakers like Haley and building the app and the technology so that you can actually be part of a community and you can ask questions and meet other people going through the same thing that you are or have gone through it before, and can help you, along the way and help mentor you or help say, hey, I was just there, last year, or I went through that same thing with a co-founder and here's what I did. So you don't even have to go through that anymore because now you know the best way of handling that situation. So I think it's extremely important, that you surround yourself with like-minded people, whether that's with us at our events and the app or just in your local community, whatever. Get around people who are ambitious, driven. They're on a mission to be successful, and they're not in a fear and lack mindset. They're in an abundance mindset, and they're getting after it. That's extremely important, and I hope that's a huge thing that I think to take away from, and being authentic as you're doing it, as your last kind of question. It's really, really important to do this as well. If anyone else has any questions here, I also want to be respectful of Haley's time. So I know we are wrapping up and getting close to a little bit past 7. Haley, I don't know if you have to go, But it looks like we might have one more question. Are you good on
we can
time?
do one more really quickly, and then otherwise you guys can
Yeah.
email me some questions.
Okay, perfect.
I'm sorry, I wouldn't rush off, but I have someone waiting for me in the lobby. So they're just
You're
stuck.
good. Yeah, no, we were to wrap up like 5 minutes ago. It looks like Amanda, you're unmuted. You want to ask a question?
Yeah, so first of all, thanks for putting this on. I was asked the other day, how do you know when it's time to like give up or like close a business down, cut ties with a client or something like that? I always say failure is a good thing, but I didn't know how to answer that. I was just like, when you're not happy, but how would you like know that it's time to like give up? Not give up, but end it.
Okay, yeah. So I always advise this thing called an energy test, which by the way, you can do whenever you're choosing anything. Like if you're trying to decide which vacation to go on or which apartment to choose, whatever. And it's you close your eyes and you clear your head and you think about one of the options. So if it's leaving the company versus staying, first think about leaving the company and see how you feel in your body and do an energy test, i.e. like, do you feel like you just took 10 shots of espresso or do you feel like you need a nap? And then think about like the reverse of that. And you might already get like your answer from that first one. If you think about leaving the company and you're like, yeah, oh my gosh, I'm starting to feel all these things, but you don't at all feel like, ugh, that feels very heavy and gross to me, then you know. And yeah, there's going to be fear associated with it and it's going to be scary, but it's propelling you to action. And there's something within you that's like, yes, that's the right way to go. Follow that urge. And then you can think about the reverse of it. And likely, like whenever you feel that heavy, gross, blah feeling like you want to go take a nap, you're doing something wrong, because as humans, we are supposed to have abounding energy if we are following our purpose and staying true to our past. So the energy test works for like anything, because like, on a soul level, sometimes you just get up in your head a little bit. So taking a few deep breaths to clear it out and then asking yourself that question and letting your body tell you is usually, well, I would say like 99.7% of the time going to be the way to answer that question for yourself.
Thank you.
Yeah.
That's spot on. I think too, just even looking yourself in the mirror and like, am I doing what I'm supposed to be doing? And just answering that simple question. And like, am I following my bliss? Because in your gut, like you really do know, I think for the most part. And like she said, 99% of the time, like you're going to do the right thing. There might be that like 1% where you have like a weird voice inside of you that's like, hey, you do this thing, but it's not really the best thing. But most of the time you do know, like in your gut, truly, if you just sit down and look yourself in the mirror and talk to yourself about this and write this stuff down, you'll figure it out. But all right, I don't want to take up any more of your time, Haley. Thank you so much. This is awesome. We'll shoot her information in the chat one last time as well. If you have any other questions and stuff, hit her up on social and email. Check out her book as well. And if you guys want to stick around, we are going to jump into some breakout sessions too, so you can network with some other people here before we wrap up. But Haley, thank you so much. This was awesome.
Thanks, guys.
Appreciate it.
Bye.